And so, welcome to the Quantum Coaching Sprint. It's a sprint because we're going to practice. And so, we're going to practice getting some results pretty quickly with the coaching methodology that Grace Ann Rosell and I developed over the last 30 years. And Michael White and David Epstein, we actually met David Epstein in Australia. He's the kind of the guru of restoring. And the first thing you need to know about restoring is you got to ask permission from people to do it. It's not like a regular coaching consulting where you just say, "Oh, I know what to do." No, you have to ask permission every step of the way of the person that you're working with. Their buy-in is real important. They need to trust you at the get-go that you're not going to take them down the rabbit hole. Uh, in the military, the rabbit hole is called red, repeated exposure, right? To desensitize you to your deepest dark horror. Now, it doesn't work. The military knows it doesn't work. 75% of the people never come back for a second session. And you can't do this work with one session usually. Um, you can make progress. That's true. It does work if you catch people in the first 15 minutes after a grenade or missiles exploded, or they've seen somebody bleed out, something like that has happened. You catch them in 15 minutes, that'll work. Red will work. Repeated exposure, desensitization. After that, not so much. So that's all I want to say about that. Again, there will be those who just arrived. There's three roles. Observer, you don't got to do nothing. In fact, it's better if you don't do anything, don't say anything. Try not to even move. Okay? Don't have a facial expression. Pretend you're in a poker game. Uh, because anything you do can tilt the result. And if you don't know what you're doing, it can be miserable. But you're here to learn. So if you observe, you can learn how we coach veterans, family members, etc., that come to us for help. The second role is the coach, and we're going to use people that have already been trained and certified in what we do. So Grace Ann and I and Joy, for example, and then if we need to call on others, we'll call on others. But so we're hoping for like 3 breakout rooms. But first, Tanya is going to tell us all about it. She's prepared some slides. And Tanya, let me make sure that you're a co-host. And Doug, Doug is here somewhere. I'll make you a co-host. Okay. Confirm, confirm. All right. And thank you for coming. Again, we'll re-explain the 3 roles as we go. So everybody's got a role in holding sacred space. Everybody can do that, you know, and that's what we really need help to make this really fun. Hey, this is great. And I want to turn it over to Tanya Akins Kane, who served in the Air Force. Are you there? Oh, she's there. She's ready. She's got her slides up. She's going. All right.
I am. Are you able to hear me? Thank you,
Loud and
Gracie.
clear.
Good morning. My name is Tanya Akins Kane. I served 21 years in the Air Force. Uh, Most of those years were in HR. I served my last 7 years as a first sergeant. Um, I now work as a organizational change management consultant, and I find this work very rewarding, especially the work that Dr. Boji and Miss Grace Ann has done over the years. I find that it's not only helped me in my work, but it's also helped me in my personal life. Um, I know that when I came back from my last deployment in 2013 from Afghanistan, I had some challenges restoring my story. I was kind of stuck. Getting my story to evolve from where I was a challenge, but uh, gratefully, I had some of the tools that Dr. Boji's work has um, been instrumental in helping people like myself with. And so to have this opportunity to work with other veterans and their families in restoring and giving voice to their story and understanding that while our stories do evolve, sometimes there's some challenges to the evolving of our story. So without further ado, I will go to my second slide and just talk a little bit about when our stories stop evolving and how when we have a certain idea of ourselves, and I can only go from my own perspective, um, it's when I had this I'm a first sergeant, I'm a Christian woman, I'm strong and I'm confident story about myself. That's what I presented as. Um, However, some of the things that I experienced in my deployment time was really challenging. I was also a wife and a mom, so coming back and trying to reintegrate into my family and into my community, for that matter, was very challenging for me. And I understand being in the veterans community that a lot of us um, seem stuck in our narratives, so to speak, in trying to be that person that we were before our experiences. And so that's what this work is about. It's about helping them to uh, understand that sometimes our stories do stop evolving, and we do have to make some shifts and do some different things, and that we are continuously becoming who we are after those experiences. And I love what Dr. Boji said earlier. We don't want to rewrite anybody's story, or when we're restoring, tell a different story from them. From my perspective as an organizational change management professional, my goal is to always give voice, give voice not only to the veteran, give voice to the spouse, give voice to the children, give voice to those mothers and fathers who are experiencing a different person than they have throughout the years. So that's one of the things that this work is going to be valuable in doing. And then I just want to talk a little bit about quantum storytelling. Uh, for me, I was so grateful to join Dr. Boji and Miss Grace Ann in developing the quantum storytelling uh, work when I finished my doctorate degree. So, what quantum storytelling is it's an intervention. Um, I on my slides you'll see by growth OD, but you'll have different coaches. Like there are several coaches on this call right now that will help you with that quantum storytelling, that helps you to reshape how you're storytelling. And in this work specifically, it'll be that veterans and not only that veteran, but again, that spouse, those children, those family members, helping to visualize their journeys and put uh, words to their story. Um, we're going to talk I'm going to talk a little bit about quantum shift. I'm going to read this out and then I'm going to talk a little bit. It moves participants from viewing service as a completed chapter to understanding it is an evolving narrative that continues to unfold with purpose. And I can attest to this personally in my own life, having retired and moved on to consulting, moved on to writing and different things like that. For me,
So
I felt
now he's sort of focused. Now he's sort of focused. If he's finished his French fries.
Miss Julie, Jillian, I ask you to put yourself on mute unless you have a question? Um, so for me, as I was saying, for me, I did have to make a shift. And I find that I'm shifting a lot more than I would say I experience a shift every 2 to 7 years in my life. So I'm learning how that evolving story has to keep coming and I have to keep telling my story. Um, and my story doesn't stay the same. I have to start restoring my story, so to speak. Um, and then I'm going to talk to you a little bit about fixed identity to evolve evolutionary capacity. As I spoke about earlier, I did feel trapped in my story, but I used some of the tools that have been introduced with Boji's work to help me to continue to restory and understand that I have different life cycles. Just like a process, I'm an organizational change management professional, but I do a lot of digital transformations. So this work for me is really helping me to understand that while I'll have just like a whole platform or system has different life cycles, so do we as human beings. And so we have to understand that in those different life cycles, we're going to have different learning cycles. We're going to learn different things. We're going to um, adopt and overcome to some things. We're going to let go of some things that we've done in the past. So that's where our adoption will come in and we'll get stronger in those kinds of things. I spoke a little bit about that, so I'm going to move on for time's sake. I'm going to shoot down to here. So I'm not going to keep you long. I just want to reiterate that we're on a learning path, so to speak. And as we continue to evolve in our stories, we we do respect and understand those old narrative patterns, those old ways of doing things. Um, and sometimes we do go back to the places where we're comfortable and we seem to identify best with, but we can't get stuck in those old narratives. We have to keep progressing forward and understanding that sometimes there will be some sprinting and sometimes there will be some marathon work in us reshaping our stories and restoring our narratives. So for me, what I hope to leave you with on today is that through this work and the different series that we're going to go through in the next few months to a year, um, we want to help you and as veterans, as families, as coaches, to best help people to go through that evolving path and restory their stories, always becoming, always evolving, and understanding that even sometimes when we get stuck, we can get unstuck and move forward. So, with that, that's what I'm going to leave you with, and I'll give it back to you, Dr. Boji.
Thank you, and appreciate it very, very much. And I'm looking forward to you getting the training you need to start coaching veterans and family members. And we talk about families, we're talking about not your normal family like Ozzie and Harriet or something like that, if you're my age. We're talking about two lesbians or that are a family. We're talking about an uncle and a divorced mother, or we're talking about two divorced women and a veteran and a child. We're talking about three children whose parent has died, right? We're talking about all different kinds of family structures. So don't think of just like there's a mom and a pop, and one of them is a veteran and there's children. It could be the veteran or the children, and we got the parents that we're dealing with, or we're dealing with a brother and a sister who've lost a veteran. So it's I just want to make that point. And I want to introduce Doug Breckenridge. He's from Vujade AI. He's also an Air Force veteran, and he's got a number of free gifts for those of you who showed up today, all 13 of you. So we appreciate you very much. So, Doug, you want to tell them about the gifts?
Sure. We always start with the gifts, right? Yeah. So, as part of our work with veterans and our support of veterans and their families, we're not only supporting if you're a veteran or a military veteran family, we're offering free full 1 year access for each person for Vuja Day. And I'll talk a little bit about Vuja Day in a moment, and particularly how it will help veterans and their families. Um, for all of you that showed up, if you're not a veteran, it doesn't mean you leave empty-handed either. We want you to use Vuja Day to help people start to realize and break out of a lot of the stereotypes that we as veterans live, and they're literally enforced upon us. So Vuja Day helps do that. So you're going to get 3 months free for you and another person, because as you work with people and you start seeing how Vuja Day builds those relationships or helps you understand that relationship, it becomes a very, very unique coaching tool. So that both of those include all the coaching. So once you do the survey, both myself and or Monty will be happy to spend time talking to you about not only your data and what you share, but we are there to help you understand the data as you're coaching military veterans and their families. So that is the full support we want to give each and every one of you. Um, those are hundreds of dollars worth of support for you, and that's how strongly we feel about the community. So that's the bit on Vuja Day, or at least the freebies there. If we have David, you're recording this, so I'll have everyone's email address. So we will send an invite. Some people are already in Vuja Day and use it. So we will extend your subscription because we're moving to our subscription model here in the next couple of weeks. So you'll continue to get free access to Vuja Day. So that's on the free gifts. Um, Let me talk a little bit about my career just briefly, so because I want to get us in there. I my title was a very long, long mouthful. I was a U.S. Air Force officer in the Cold War, and I was a ground launch cruise missile combat crew commander instructor evaluator. What all that means is I was in charge of 16 Tomahawk cruise missiles aimed at the Soviet Union, um, waiting for Armageddon, basically. And so a lot of desensitization goes into that role, that job. It is high pressure. We have, even if I took an aspirin, I was pulled off alert status. So fortunately, I never had to fire my weapons. But with the training, and I was part of my role as an instructor evaluator was to design weapons training as well as war games training for NATO practice. And so I've seen even people have part of their hand blown off when a ground burst simulator is thrown into a hole, and the person sadly jumped into the same hole rather than took cover in a safe hole. So that, you see those kinds of things. You're prepared all the time. You're always on edge. You're out on deployments for 10 days. Once again, fortunately, not part of an actual war, but it feels like it. and you're training all the time for it. You're working up to 36 hours straight without sleep, prepared to fight that battle. So and I watch, Tanya touched on it, David's touched on it. I've watched we get locked into these roles. There are huge expectations of the way you need to act and behave. And the pressure's intense. The good part of it is the people that I served with, we are so close, it doesn't make a difference. We would live and die for each other. And that's the good part of it. But the bad part of it is seeing people struggle as they leave the military, as they take on other roles, as they interact with society because there are certain expectations and stereotypes that are there. And so part of what I look forward to doing is just being there for my brothers and sisters, to help them, tell their own story, um, and develop that. So Vujade fits in that because unlike most other tools, it gives it treats every individual as unique. We have no report. If you take something like a DISC as a personality assessment, you fall into one of four categories. We have 9.85 trillion categories per individual. So we don't have anybody who is the same. And that's liberating especially for a vet, because then you realize my circumstances, even though other people have gone through it, they still are unique for me, that my family members that I start to recognize because of the dynamic of the relationships, I can see that their circumstances are different because we're always sensitive if you're the serving member of what your family's going through. And there's a huge amount of guilt that goes into that you can't support them more. It is part of the job, but there's a lot of guilt that you live with. So I'm looking forward to all that. Happy to support all of you. Please reach out either when you're supporting a veteran or trying to understand anything in Vuja Day. That's what we're here for, in your private practice as well as with the military families and their veterans. Thanks, David.
Thank you, Doug. Now, some of the things Doug talked about are very important and very persuasive. They're all persuasive, actually, but I want to make a couple of points. One, I put a link in the chat if anybody wants to support our effort. We're a 501c3 called PerView Inc. Grace Ann, Rosella, and I do it. You can make a monthly, a week, not a weekly, a monthly or a one-time donation, $1, or you could donate 5 or 10 or 20 or onward. And what do we do with that money? Well, it funds work with the horses because we found that if we can get a veteran and family member around horses, the horses are a great mirror. Grace Ann doesn't like it when I say they're a mirror, but they are a mirror and they mirror back whatever emotions, thoughts you have because they're kind of scaredy cats, really, a big old horse. And they tend to withdraw from people that have deep emotions of anger or rage or something like that buried in them and may not even know it themselves. But if they're in sadness and sorrow, uh, I've had a horse come up and lick me in the face. That's how Grace Ann decided I was worth dating, when her horse licked me in the face. So I've had horses come up and rub my back when I have a backache. So and not all horses are the same. They're different. Grace Ann will tell you that. But what we do with that, we don't have them ride horses. Okay, we're not like wounded warriors out. We don't want them to fall off a horse. A lot of people are terrified of horses from early child experience. But we found that it's a really good barometer of what's going on. And often the family members will even talk about it like, oh, Dad picked that horse and he ran out of the barn. I think that horse is aware of something, or another one says, oh, look at them standing there looking at each other. You know, he often stands around a lot. Uh, I get all kinds of people. By the way, I train therapists, I train psychoanalysts in this methodology. They bring them to their clients to my house. They bring them on Zoom. Um, I am not a therapist. I'm a consultant coach uh, doing restoring. If you want therapy, stay with your therapist. We're not going to do therapy today or any other day. What we do is coach you. Now, Doug, if I could just point out a couple of examples from your story where you saw people die, you saw them bleed out, you saw some of the worst things going on in war. However, we don't go down that rabbit hole because we're not red. Red doesn't stand for communist. It stands for repeated exposure desensitization. And to me, that's like running your car into a brick wall over and over again and saying, now I'm desensitized against crashing cars. Well, no, you're not. You're probably more broken than you were. And basic psychology will tell you that if you repeat a trauma over and over again, you're not desensitized. Maybe you're kind of just withdrawn a bit, but maybe you're hurt more. That's what we're finding out. That's why Gracie and I went into this, and Doug and Tanya, and I hope that you're all going to become coaches someday. And there's nothing I'm going to do, or Joy's going to do, or Gracie Ann is anything that you can't do already. And I don't know if Jillian is still there making an appearance, because Jillian and Ronnie used to go with me to work with homeless veterans at New Mexico State University. And I worked with them for several years. Hi, Jillian. Remember we used to work with homeless veterans and we put on those plays with Gusto Bowow Theater. Well, it took a year of trust building before they would do a play. It took a year of trust building, like several months before they'd trust me to even share anything. And then they wouldn't tell a story at all because veterans are taught not to do that. They would, I brought out some toys, little kids' toys about nothing over 3 inches, just put them in a sand tray and did some sand tray work. And my goodness, the stories that came out when they would pick up an object and say, "Oh, yeah, look at this object I've got here." I remember one was a wooden spool or something, and the guy started putting that down, and a couple of other objects, not too many. In fact, we didn't even have enough sand to go around, so he was just sitting there on the table. Everybody else had sand, and he didn't. And he started talking. And you know what they said? The other homeless veterans, this was a veterans shelter, so they had little apartments and stuff. He said that's the first time he's ever spoke in 6 months. And then he started to say, I was a marathon runner, you know? And then he told me something that I want you all to learn. He said, I had PTSD when I was on the farm in New Mexico with my parents. We could barely had enough to eat. I had to tend things in the winter and a little bit up north of where we are now, very cold. And I had to work like a slave in that place. And my parents, and he talked about the abuse and all that. He just opened up. You know what I'm saying? He just opened up from a toy. I'm not going to teach you that today, but unless I get a veteran that I'm with in a breakout and I can't talk about it. My dad didn't talk about it. He was in the Pacific, World War II. He was in Korea War. My grandfather didn't talk about it. He was in the trenches in Europe in World War One. And why? Why? Because the military teaches you not to talk about it. They say, suck it up, man up, woman up, get back out there. Don't be a burden to your family. You know what they tell the family? Don't be a burden to your soldier. Don't tell them your problems when you're on the phone with them once a week, once a month. I remember Vietnam, we could talk for 5 minutes on a Friday through an operator who would give us a little time. And we were lined up, 50 deep to get our 5 minutes, on a coin-fed phone. Remember okay, you guys are not old enough to remember any of those things. So those are some points. We're going to do coaching. We're not going to ask you to relive something. I have. If I'm in the middle of it, I'm not going to say, "Hey, just shut up, stop saying those things." I'm not going to be that rude, but I am going to encourage people to stand at the rabbit hole and talk about what are you feeling, what are you thinking, What are your beliefs? How's that affect you? How's that going for your life? But first, I will always ask permission. May we talk? Can we talk about outside the rabbit hole, not going into the rabbit hole? So I try to make that really clear. But sometimes people don't follow instructions. You know what I mean? So a woman approached me with her husband, Afghanistan veteran, who was a machine gun operator, and he would clear the landing zone, holding space for the other people as meds were dropped, replacements, food supplies. And he said he had to carry so much ammo for that machine gun, big, big rounds, not little rounds like you see on gangster TV, but and it broke his back. You know, what I mean, he had permanent back issues after that. But then he started, I said, well, bring back some toys. Well, he missed the part about 3 inches. So he built a replica, a 3 foot long Huey helicopter kind of thing. Well, it wasn't a Huey, but it was like that. And with the machine guns on the side and then a replica of his machine gun. And, there we are on Zoom and I'm trying to work with and he's telling me, this person bled out. I couldn't leave the field. I couldn't take care of him. I had to stay on my machine gun. Those are the kind of stories we're not going to have you tell. Okay. We're not going to go there. We're not going to touch your most deepest hurt. That's not why we're here. We found a methodology where if we just are there with you and we say, well, how's it going with you and your family? Right? Remember the guy, Grace Ann, Mr. Military, we call him, came back from overseas and was in a PhD program and said, hey, uh, when do I get to have my committee? It was his first day in his PhD program after he's had from deployment. Where's my committee? Nobody will tell me my committee. I have a dissertation topic. How do I get going on it? When am I going to defend? He's all into what Doug calls the outcome, right? He's all into the outcome. He's not ready to go through the process of PhD training. He wants to to man up, run up that hill, plant his flag, and that's my PhD. He's so they told me he was coming to our session. Grace Ann and I said, okay, okay. And I asked for a volunteer. Naturally, his hand went up. "Oh, I want to volunteer and I want to do my dissertation. If you're not going to help me do my dissertation, I'm much good up there, are you? So he was really on the attack mode. And I said, well, come on up here in the front and let's talk. And can I ask you a few questions? You know? And he said, oh, sure, sure. Ask me anything. So I said, well, how's it going for you and your wife? And you have children? Yes, yes. Have a daughter. How's that going? Well, my daughter's terrified of me. My wife's not talking to me. And people in my PhD cohort, they seem to shy away from me. I said, so can we work with that? Is that something we can work with in the next few minutes here on stage? Would that be all right with you? And in about 10 minutes, I got him through the steps that are in your handout. I got him through that. Grace Ann's my witness. She was there. And so were about 60 PhD students and a dozen faculty at that university. And we got to the end, the last step, we found his little wow moment experience. Like, tell me a little wow moment when you were with your daughter when you came back. Yeah, oh, yeah, we played catch the other day. How was that? Yeah, she enjoyed it. I liked it. What about your wife? Well, we did get out to a dinner. So we got a number of little wow moments that were exceptions to him taking the hill, that kind of mode of vigilance and survival that you need when you're in the zone. And then I said, well, are you okay having a support group? Who do you think could be your support group? He said, well, my wife, maybe my cohort. Well, the cohort, like we saw 7 people jump out of their chair and say, "Yeah, we'll support him not taking the hill and calming the hell down," you know? And so he had a support group for his new story. You know what I mean? Of slowing down, Mr. Military. So that was his label, Mr. Military. I said, pick a label for yourself for this thing that's going on with you. So I'm like Mr. Military. And I said, okay. So I guess that gives you a little introduction to what we're doing. And we got plenty of time here. And is there any questions before we do the first breakout? Hey, Olivia, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to remind you, I have a meeting in 20 minutes, and I believe Carl might have to leave early as well. So just keep
Okay.
that in
The
mind.
next 10 minutes are the best 10 minutes of your life because we're going into the breakout after I
Sure.
do a little. In fact, I think I can do a breakout. I think I can do a demo in 5 and a breakout in 10. So if you've got 15 minutes of your life to spare, hang in there. All right. All right. Who is there? Somebody has a question. Grace Ann, go ahead. Unmute yourself. You just muted yourself. There you go.
Okay. I just wanted to reinforce what David said about the character of Mr. Military and what that represented. So, the reluctance to tell their story, we partially avoid that pitfall by creating external characters. So, just as with the sand tray, where they pick up a figure and they say, oh, this looks like Godzilla, and they tell a story about Godzilla, they can use an external image or character or title like Mr. Military. And so rather than it being about them, it's about the fictional character. And so that allows to talk about personal things in a sort of arm's length kind of way. And that avoids putting blame on the person.
David, you're
David, you're still
muted.
on mute.
It's infectious, Grace. And now I was muted. Okay, so about the root chakra. So in Jainism, we call it Mula Adhara. So Mula means root, like the root. You sit on the root, base of your spine. And Adhara means support. So what we're going to ask you to do is just meditate on your root chakra, you know, uh, and create that support space for the root of what we're doing here with anybody. Now, I'm going to ask, does anybody want to volunteer? And I'm not going to go into anything hurtful or anything like that with you, but is anybody from the military or family from the military want to volunteer?
What are you asking them to volunteer for?
I'm not going to tell them. I'm going to do a demo for 5 minutes. I'm going to volunteer for 5 minutes of your time. I'm going to set the alarm. I'm going to time it. Okay. We got all day. I can wait it out as long as you can. You're going to have to unmute yourself, Grace
You
Ann.
want someone to have a problem or an issue they want to address? What is it?
No, I have to be a military person. Sorry.
Tanya,
I'll volunteer.
Yeah,
Okay, Tanya.
okay.
Wonderful. So, do you want to be recorded or not recorded?
Recorded is fine.
Okay, then we'll keep that going. Um, First, I'm ask your permission. Is it okay with you if I ask you some questions, but I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole with you to any deep dark hurt. I'm going to stay on the
It's
outside of the room.
okay.
Okay. And what would you like to most accomplish in the next 2 or 3 minutes?
Just crafting my story, um, taking it from a not so uh, great story to a positive outcome.
Okay, positive outcome. Okay, all right. So if we can do that, we'll have met our goal, right?
Yes.
Okay. So uh, let's do step one. Can you characterize you at your best before this rabbit hole experience, whatever it is?
Yes. I'm going to talk about prior to my deployment to Afghanistan. I was working on my doctorate, finishing it up, had a great career going. It was very positive, a lot of good stuff happening, very good social life, good vibes, excited to take this deployment and go on this deployment, not understanding everything that I would experience. So,
Now tell me, in your body, what sensations are you feeling right now?
um, in my mentally, I feel grateful because I'm here now. I see where I was, what I went through, and where I am now. So, happiness, joy, peace.
Okay. So for the observers, it's real important to ask that question. It's your baseline, okay, in doing the coaching. All right. Now let's go on. Uh, can you tell me what kind of thoughts, emotions, beliefs you have right now when you just characterized yourself at your best?
My thoughts and emotions are more based on my personal Christian faith and belief. Um, so my thoughts and emotions are more positive and grateful, a spirit of gratitude.
Okay, spirit of gratitude. And again, to observers, I would note spirit of gratitude because that's a term that Tanya introduced that now I can reintroduce as we go through. So I don't want to use terms that she's not using, okay, if I can avoid it. Okay. And gratitude, note that gratitude is an emotion, right? It is an energy. She's also expressed some thoughts, some beliefs about Christianity. So in one swoop, she's hit all the notes, right, of the melody that's behind her on the screen. So I'm going to move ahead to, if I didn't get all of that, I would stay there and ask more questions, but I don't need to. So on an energy scale of 1 to 10, what's your energy right now?
Right now, I'm at about an 8.
Okay. Okay. Again, now we've established a baseline 8 because the next stages were likely not to get 8s. And we don't want to finish up on a 3 and we want to be above an 8. You know what I mean? So that's a real important thing that we just did. Okay. If so, you mentioned quantum physics before, so you're aware of quantumness. If you were going to make a choice and collapse the wave for that new story you said you wanted to have, that's not quite as down as the original story, um, what would that be? Can you collapse that wave now? We just collapse it and choose.
In my best effort, I would, having gone through my deployment and some of the things I experienced, I would have not taken so much to heart during that deployment as I did. So having to collapse it, that's what I wouldn't have taken I wouldn't have dealt with the guilt of survival
Okay,
coming back home as I did. But now, oh, go.
go ahead. You're doing great.
But now, having gone through that and working my way, reshaping my story, restoring my story, understanding that I did go through that and coming to a place where I don't have to feel guilty for surviving. I can be grateful for surviving
Okay.
and help other people.
Wonderful. You're doing very, very well. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. I'm in gratitude. Oh, of all the words you've just mentioned, can you create a label or a character um, for the story you don't want to be? You know,
Mm, ungrateful.
ungrateful. Okay. So now we're in step two, and we have a label, ungrateful. So we're going to use that label from time to time. We're not going to overuse it, right? So rather than being down in the rabbit hole, we're just going to call the whole thing ungrateful. All right. So now we want to sympathize with that story, ungrateful. What does that get you? What's a little payoff? It doesn't have to be big, a little payoff you get from being ungrateful.
The benefit of knowing what it is to be grateful.
Okay. Powerful answer. Powerful answer. Okay. Now let's stay there in ungrateful for just a bit. And what kind of vibrations does that give you in your body when you feel ungrateful?
When I feel ungrateful, it's for me, it's taxing, it's exhausting. So
Okay. And what kinds of thoughts, feelings go through your mind and beliefs?
sadness, despair, those kinds of things,
Okay.
and gratitude.
So notice how connected Tanya is to the audience. She is actually expressing words of emotion, right? A lot of people that are stuck won't be able to do that at this point. They're dissociated, but I don't have to go through that loop, right? So we can move on. In fact, I'm just going to skip over a couple of points and go to revise. So, so what's the consequence? What's the outcome here of ungrateful? What
For
what
me,
happens?
the consequence of being ungrateful is I don't get to enjoy the moments of life, the wow moments of life to its fullest. I don't get to appreciate the people that I have in my life that make
Okay.
my life better.
All right. So she's given me an opening. I'm going to go right to step five. I'm not going to mess around. So, so you're talking about relationships, family, friends, parents,
Co-workers.
co-workers, children.
Mhm.
Children. Okay. Um, so how is it affecting those relationships?
Being ungrateful affects them in a negative way because it makes people not want to be around you. It makes it makes you not want to be around yourself. Um, and it also affects how productive you are, how you the works of your hands are affected because you're so stuck in a rut, so to speak, that you can't come up out of it and do something positive, do positive things for yourself, your family, your community, your company, different things like that.
Okay. So I believe we're making really good progress, Tanya. I really appreciate you for doing this. And I want you to know that what you're expressing, anybody would have those kinds of reactions, you know. And as mother, daughter, you know, in a relationship. And so let me just skip to how's that feel in your body now?
As I talk about it and I think about it, it shifts me from unhappiness to happiness, from ungratefulness to gratefulness.
Okay. So I know she's already expressing feelings. I'm connected, so I'm not going to go through every little loop here, but energy scale 1 to 10, where are you at?
Right now, I'm at about a 9.5.
Okay. You see, she's at a 9.5. If she was at a 3, I got to start over. If she's at a 6, I got to I got to really maybe probe into some of the other things she brought up, but I don't need to do it at 9.5. As my dad said, quit while you're ahead, you know? So, but I'm not going to quit. I'm going to say, can you retell your history without the ungratitude and have some little wow moments there when you had exceptional gratitude?
I'll start with the story I told before. I had a great life career going, went to deployment, experienced some things, met some really great people, learned some things about myself in that process, in all of the things that I went through. Um, as a casualty officer, I was the casualty person who sent the orders home. One of the best things that I think for me that makes me happy is with every order that I sent to back to the Pentagon for families to receive, I was able to pray over that. I I think that was one of the best qualities that was the best outcome for what I went through. As I've shifted forward and gotten unstuck from that the ungratefulness, the guilt, I see the work that has gone in. I see my tribe of my family, my friends, my community, how they lifted up my arms when I needed it. And they reminded me of who I am and who I could become even more.
Okay. So you've mentioned you have a belief in Christ, I believe, right?
Yes,
In God. You want to have a story of gratitude. Um, you seem to be appreciative of people who have supported you along the way. You've identified a number of little wow moments like that. So now we're going to do the thing. What's the new story of Tanya Akins Kane?
the new story of Tanya Akins Kane is a clear vision of who I am, whose I am, and who is on the journey with me.
Okay, answer the question. Who is Tanya Akins Kane?
Tanya Akins Kane is a human being uh, who loves all people, understands that everybody has a story. While I may not like everything that everybody does, I love everybody. And I
Okay,
act like I love everybody.
all right. Final questions. Do you have somebody in your life that you can tell this story to?
Yes, I
Okay.
think my brother Brandon, my baby brother Brandon, and his husband um, are my number one and number two cheerleaders. So
Okay.
sharing my stories with them is a judgment-free zone that I get a lot of it encouragement. So
Okay. So in that judgment-free zone, can is it all right with you and say no if you don't want to, but can they hold you accountable if you backslide into ungrateful, Kane?
absolutely, absolutely. My brother-in-law is we're celebrating a month of gratitude, so we can't complain about anything. But he's like this all year round. Hey, we got too much going on. We got too much good going on not to be happy. You come on out of that misery. So yes, they hold me accountable.
Okay. So now just going to close with some breathing. So take a deep breath in, hold it out, Take a second deep breath in. And you all can do this as observers. You got to breathe anyway. So breathe in, hold it, out. One more time. Breathe in, out. Now, I want you to clap loudly 3 times, and everybody in the audience is going to clap loudly 3 times and come off your mics. And I want to hear loud claps. Ready? Off your mic. Open those mics up. Open those mics up. We want it nice and loud. Okay. Tanya, lead us in 3 claps. All right. We love you, Tanya. Thank you so much for sharing with us what you're doing. And I just think it's beautiful, the things you shared. And thank you. So we're going to go right into breakout. I'm going to assemble 3 rooms, maybe 4. Let's see who we got here. Tanya, do you feel okay to coach? You want
I
to try
am.
to coach?
Yes.
Okay. So enjoy Grace and myself. So I'm going to build 4 rooms, and um, there'll be, let's see, is that enough? 4, 8. Yeah, you'll be in there at least 1 to 2 other people. Okay. So now, anybody that doesn't want to participate can just observe, whether you're military, family, coach, client. As long as you're a human being, you can just observe. If you want, if there's nobody military in your breakout room, luck of the draw, then you can just ask for a volunteer for any issue somebody wants to bring up and work with the coach. Okay, so coaches are going to be Grace Ann, myself, Tanya, and Joy. All right. I'll try to make those rooms happen in good order. Meanwhile, Grace Ann, you want to take some questions while I assemble the rooms?
Sure.
Grace, you're muted.
Okay, now am I okay? I keep getting reversed. Any questions before we go to the breakout rooms?
Hey.
Great example, Tanya. I got a lot of insights from your process. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and let's see. Okay.
My question is, Tanya was unusual. Was Tanya unusual? And if you had somebody who wasn't as aware, how would you get to this point?
I can answer that if you want.
Go ahead, David.
As we proceed month to month, I've got over 118 questions here you can ask. And we're going to deal with all 7 energies. You know them as chakras. And a lot of it is very being in touch with your own energy that you feel in your body and asking them questions what they're feeling in their body and the energy scale. So that really lets you hone in on it. So you probably noticed that I broke script a couple of times and asked questions that weren't, because I have to go with my energy, right? And what I'm sensing about my energy, and I have to be totally centered, and I got to be totally listening to her words, not putting words, you know what I mean? And I got to respond to those words. So she goes with gratitude. That opens up a whole energy field in me and Tom, right? I'm going to go to Tom. Go ahead, Tom.
Oops. There we go.
I want to get to the
Thank
breakout.
you, David and Tony. That was really interesting. And what I just is more of a comment that
hearing Doug talk and hearing Tanya talk, when I think of military, I think of like combat. But what I came to realize is the stress that people are under that are perhaps in non-combat situations, but it's really amazingly stressful. So that was something that I never had thought of before. So thank you both for sharing that. I appreciate
Oh,
that.
you're welcome. I give doctoral students the DSM thing on PTSD, uh, and I find right around exam time, into the semester, they score pretty high on the PTSD scales, and so I think you're right. Let's not waste any more time. Not that your questions aren't wasting time, but I'm going to put you in breakouts and you can ask questions there. So I'm going to open the breakout rooms and let's go for 10 minutes. All right. And all the coaches know what to do. And be sure to ask permission. I'll just remind you. Go. You should find a button there to push and go into a breakout room. And I hope you all get to have this experience over the months ahead. Be a coach. Hi, Don. Did you find your button, Don? There you go. And Sabine. Okay. Okay. I'm going to go join that. So, uh, okay. Okay, so first of all, I'm not going to record.
Recording in progress.
So I'm resuming my recording. Now, what happened in breakout room is just like Las Vegas, it stays in breakout room. You're not allowed to reveal anything about Fight Club. All right. That's one of the rules. What's rule two? You don't talk about Fight Club. Okay. So, but I will ask you how your session went without getting into any stories. Okay.
How are your energy levels?
Mine's very high, very, very high. Yeah. How?
For breakout room one,
Go ahead, Joy.
so we used a family member and we went through all, we were on step 7 when I got the method. I mean, the message that said, to wrap it up. And we were just wrapping it up, sending compassion and love and understanding to that family member because we experienced a family member moving from Tasmanian devil to an understanding, a more compassionate person. We had observed that through the steps.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. Uh, so, Tanya, where are you at? You're there. I found you. So,
Here.
how did it go?
It went very well. I thank Tom for sharing his story. It was wonderful. Uh, I only got to step 4, which was very good. The information that was shared was very eye-opening. Um, it was very enlightening for me, um, to hear a different side of the coin, as far as military life goes. Um, Very grateful. We ended in the importance of forgiveness and how to get to that state. So it was very good.
Wonderful. And let's go to Grace Ann. How did it go, Grace Ann?
Great. One of the things I noticed, and I would rather have Doug speak about what happened, but um, how Tanya's example had implications for a lot of other things and keyed in. And I think that's a kind of the mystical part of the process. That somehow, whatever your story is, it's a human story and it relates to all of us.
Well, thank you.
Doug, do you want to mention anything?
Well, it's not fair to put Doug on the spot now.
Well,
Okay.
That's okay. I'll just go with my energy levels and As I was listening to Tanya's story, I was kind of just relating what my story would be like without getting into any details. And I was like, I'm at a 3, and I have no expectation of moving. So thank you, Grace Ann. I'll put myself at about a 5. Yeah, now I'm asking questions, which is good. I'll be searching for those little wow moments as we move forward. But yeah, I didn't expect that, which is wonderful about this process. So thank you.
Well, I had a process, but I'm not going to talk about it. So I'm going to be true blue. Uh, I really appreciate you all being here today. And I think it's wonderful what we've been able to do in a quantum coaching sprint. We sprinted in a breakout, we sprinted in a demo. And did you all learn something? Did you all learn anything? And now I think it's fair to ask you, what did you get out of this? And I'll start with Carol.
Enormous gratitude and desire to learn how to do this, not only for veterans.
Works well with students, Carol.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
But I want to say there's 21 suicides a day in the military. That's the American military. There's more in other military. It's still going on. Um, the the level of stress and trauma that people are living with doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be that way. There are, you can learn this coaching the way I demonstrated it, the way Joy does it, the way Grace Ann does it, and powerful things can happen the way Tanya is doing it now. We're going to graduate Tanya pretty soon. And Doug, I'm going to volunteer to you do some Vuja Day. You've already done with me. I'll do some coaching. I'll bet I can get you to a 10.
Well,
Bet I
I'm
can.
looking forward to it. I mean, it's a great purpose. We've got a lot of time in LA.
Well, one thing I never give up till I get my 10. You know, I'm outcome oriented,
I do know that, right? You got the scores to back it up.
But what does anybody else get out of this? Tom Lemke? And then we'll go to Grace Ann.
Thank you, David. I really enjoyed this. I've always been curious how you do what you do. And I'm very grateful for the opportunity. I shared some things that I got a chance to talk about that I've never really addressed with anyone before. And it really was, thank you, Tanya and Carol. It was very helpful. And David, it's interesting to me. I'd love the ability to maybe help veterans because I think there are a lot of people suffering. And if that's a contribution that I can make going forward in my life, I'm happy to participate. So thank you for putting it together.
Anytime. Thank you, Tom, for the wonderful books you write about gratitude. And thank you, Jesus. And now I'm reading that other journal about traders, trading stocks. And I've never traded stocks before. Now I have to trade stocks. But thank you. So I'm going to ask Jillian a question. And I know Jillian really well. She's a PhD program I was in and was on her dissertation.
Mhm.
You remember what we worked with the homeless veterans? What impact did that have on your education?
Oh, that was huge. Because the interesting thing about that whole thing was I I was also in charge of helping someone with the data, and it was like interesting how you adapted to my need for a lot more of the theater and the body because I I noticed that there was a lot of energy and so forth that just happens and settles in the body, and so the objects allowed a lot of movement and silence. There was always like the spaces that were just obfuscated by language was opened up, and everything that we did with the veterans so that they could bodily be there, mentally be there, and just it was powerful.
You're powerful, Jillian. Can I say that? In Jillian's mission in life, working with autism, and she did her dissertation on helping people with autism and parents that have autism children with autism. She's correcting me already, I can tell. And how to get better kinds of employment
Mhm.
opportunities. So, Grace Ann, you were going to say something. I could see you blink your eye.
Well, I think it's interesting how as a coach or facilitator, the less I do, the more the other person can do for themselves and have their own realizations. So, having a career as an academic, we mostly spend our time telling other people what's right and what they should believe and what's knowledge. And this process is all about letting the person discover their own truth and their own inner knowledge. And I think the best thing we can do is sort of just help people to appreciate themselves.
Thank you, Grace Ann. Lucero, I'm going to ask you a question because you taught me Holy Fire Reiki and uh, made me a master. But I know you're the real master. Uh, so Doug and I are going to do this thing in Long Beach, and Tanya's got to do a consulting thing. Can you come and help us, Doug and I?
I would love to. Yes. Yes,
And
yes,
Grace Ann will
yes.
be there. Is
Yeah.
they've invited all these military families there. I don't know how many breakouts we're going to be able to do unless I have a good coach there.
Yes, it would be such an honor. It's really wonderful to see everybody's face. I miss this group so deeply. And I'm taking a deep breath. Yeah, as I'm sensing and feeling into everything that you're doing and the opening, like you're talking about chakras, I feel it really in the stomach and
I was
how
just going to ask you, and you read my mind. Go for it.
I can see how you're helping many families digest, right? Get move through those big blockages and that how that awakens the heart for safety. Like you said in the play with the sandbox, and I can see the wave of love and energy that this is moving. And because a lot of people have digestion issues, they don't know when they get the bellies and then they don't know how to express their emotions. But I can tell that this is the beginning or the continuation, better said, of the awakening, and hiring the vibration. So it's such an honor. I definitely want to become a coach in this as well. I feel like you opened up my heart even more, and I'm like, what am I doing? Like I gotta do this way more.
You and I are going to be in Long Beach, California, and we can have breakfast and lunch and dinner, and you can teach me more stuff, and I'll show you stuff, and we'll do the session together with Doug. Is that okay, Doug? I should ask Doug. Doug, is that all right?
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm,
Yeah. So
I've
that'll
got
be
I've got my calendar now set for meals. Perfect.
December the 18th.
December
So make
18th.
sure if you miss everything else, but don't miss December the 18th because we're on for an hour and 15 with veterans and family members.
Got it.
Help! So that'll be great. Jillian, you're going too, aren't you? I think Ronnie's gone. You're muted, but
Yeah,
just
yeah. Ronnie's going. Sadly, we're not able to get both of us there. But
okay.
if you have opportunity like this one, we're on Zoom. I'll be happy to be there and help out.
Okay, speaking of helping out,
Yes, of course.
I'm going to put the donation thing at perview.org, perview.org, or you can go to
Mhm.
growthod.org and or quantumstorytelling.org. But
Mhm.
anyway, purview.org, PER, that's where my main thing. I'll be putting the
Mhm.
donation button there. I'm not asking any of you for donations. In fact, the people who have donated already, I'm very grateful for them. None of them are here. Okay, I didn't mean that none of you did
Yes.
donate. Oh no, I put you on the spot. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that, but I'm just saying I'm
No.
grateful for those that donated. And
Yes.
where are
I
they?
also put, yeah, the link that you just put in the chat earlier for the donations and so forth, and also with this calling, I put on my Facebook and LinkedIn. So,
Yeah.
got to get it out there.
That's what I'm going to ask you all to do as a support group. If you could just put it out there. And what do we do with the money? We get horses for people in New Mexico. We
Yep.
have our own horses, but we have to pay insurance and other things, feed veterinarians and all the rest of it. And then
Yep.
we want to put on an event right here that we film right here in New Mexico with veterans and family members,
Oh
for
yeah, I should
free.
also do my TikTok and Twitter.
Now you're talking. Now you're talking my language. So if I could just count on you to everybody, the big you, I would really
Yep.
appreciate it. Get the word out. There's
And your
my
YouTube channels.
in the YouTube. Then I'm going to put this YouTube up there. And has anybody not got a chance to speak yet? We're okay. I'm just going to thank you, everybody, and go to perview.org or quantumstorytelling.org or growthod.org. Go to any of the org websites and you'll find us there. And we appreciate you. And then